and welcome back to my channel. Now this is going to be the start of me obviously doing mouse care chatty videos with yous, and these are going to be weekly episodes of certain things that I'm going to talk about that I haven't really covered in depth on my channel already. So a little bit like the guinea pig starter kit, I am actually going to talk about the mouse starter kit. Now this episode is going to be basically everything you need to kind of really take into consideration when becoming a mouse owner. So hi everyone and welcome back to this channel. Now we are going to start off this week's video with as you can tell by the title of the video, is going to be the mouse starter kit. Now this is just going to be some tips and stuff of what to expect when becoming a mouse owner. A lot of the things that you would, generally think about, like food and water and all that kind of stuff, but there is other things that you might not really expect when becoming a mouse owner. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the enclosure, so obviously the mouse cage. So you need to make sure that you do have a pretty big cage. Shocker, right? I know. A lot of people think just because they're very small animals that they don't deserve to have a big cage. Small cages aren't very good for your mouse. Mice are very, very, very energetic little things, and they need a lot of space and a lot of enrichment to make sure that they have a very happy life. Now I don't want to go too much into cages today because I am going to do a full video on that of good cages. But if you want a good cage, I would really recommend, if you're in the United Kingdom, to check out Zooplus. They do amazing mouse cages and they are all good sizes. I will also link that website down below. Now a lot of people don't think about this, but you will need a pet carrier, a mouse carrier. And a lot of people don't think about this because even though that you're buying a mouse of some sort, you may already get like a box or a container or something to bring them home in. But a lot of the time you will need like a pet carrier to be able to take your mouse to the vet. The next things are kind of a little bit obvious. You obviously need food bowls, you need food, you need water bowls if you prefer, but you can also use a water bottle. You'll need bedding, substrate, exercise wheels, toys. You'll need some sort of housing. The next kind of topic is grooming. You don't need to worry about grooming. Mice tend to groom themselves and clean themselves. The last thing is never bath a mouse. The only time it is ever recommended is if a vet advises you to, for whatever reason, is to bath a mouse. The only thing that you will need to make sure that you keep clean is their cage, and make sure that you are doing daily spot cleanings, like taking out any wet patches of where they've weed, and poos as well. Make sure that you pick up them daily just to keep their cage clean. Now what I feel like, you shouldn't really clean the mouse cage too often because that can cause stress within a mouse. Like any other small animal, a lot of people recommend not to do weekly cleans, but to do like spot checks and make sure that you are taking out wet areas and replacing it with clean substrate. Bedding wise, it depends on how dirty that is. If it is very dirty, make sure that you do clean it. I tend to clean it weekly, their bedding area in the little tissue bedding, not the substrate that you use in the cage, the bedding itself. I tend to clean that weekly. Cage wise, I just do spot cleaning and just take away any areas that are like wee corners. I tend to clean that as well. It just saves the mice getting stressed, and it kind of does keep them a little bit more balanced. Also, when you are cleaning, make sure that you are using a disinfectant. The next thing you need to really consider is your environment itself, your home. Not their home, your home. So mice are great little alternatives to a home, but there is some kind of things that you want to consider. Obviously if you have children, I wouldn't recommend letting your very young children hold them, because a lot of the time children don't really understand the pressure that they're putting on a mouse, and with mice being very, very small, they are very delicate to that kind of grasp that humans have. The same goes with animals as well. If you have animals, make sure that you are putting your mice in a safe place away from them other animals. Also, a lot of people tend to forget in your home is don't put your mice anywhere near sunlight, so make sure that your mouse is away from windows. Obviously keep away from drafts. If you live in a hot country, it's very recommended that you make sure that your cage is very well ventilated, and you can also put an ice pack at one side of the cage for your mouse to cool off. Recommended that you don't actually put the ice pack inside. Try and put it underneath the cage itself so that that kind of absorbs up. If you live in a cold area, you can get special heat pads that go into cozy items. And the last little thing I kind of want to talk about in today's episode is things that you kind of need to make sure that you remember, is that mice don't live very long. So if you don't do very well with pet deaths, maybe a mouse isn't for you, because sometimes they do get very sick, like tumours. Another thing to consider is to make sure that you have some sort of time free to be able to spend with your mouse, because it's very important that you do bond with your mouse, because if you don't, it's going to be very hard to be able to handle. Another thing to consider is that mice are very social animals, so you're going to have to bear in mind that you will have to have one or more of their species. Also, it's also good to kind of do your research. Make sure that you put the time and effort into gathering some research, and there is a lot of good websites out there for information. I will also link a few of them down below. Other things that you may want to consider is mouse forms, or talking to a breeder. The breeders are very good for information. Another thing to consider is what kind of sex of mouse you're going to get. If you are going to get a male, you want to figure out if you are going to be able to get him neutered, as well as what kind of cage mates you are going to house him with. And please bear in mind that males are quite stinky, so also put that into your mind. Do you want to have a stinky mouse that you need to maybe clean a little bit more than you would females? Females are great in a colony. Like, I see my mice personally, I've had quite a few mice. I've had a group of 3, I've had a group of 4, I've had a group of 6. So you do see quite a difference in their personalities when you have multiple of them. Bearing in mind that if you are going to get a big group, the bigger the cage. So obviously if you're going to get a big group, you will need to expand their cage. A good starter amount for a beginner, I would suggest either 3 or 4 females, because at least if one of their cage mates pass away for whatever reason, at least they'll still have their other cage mates there to help them out. Also, a very important thing, you need to make sure that your vet deals with small animals such as mice, because if anything goes wrong, you will have to take a mouse to a vet. They do need veterinary care sometimes, and sometimes it's just something that you need to think about. Before I even got my mice, I made sure that my local vets where the dogs and that are at, I made sure that they dealt with mice, and luckily they did. So again, it's just something that you need to consider and make sure that you look into before getting any mice. So I hope I've covered everything. If there is something that you want to kind of ask me about that I haven't already stated in this video, make sure that you just leave it as a question or a comment down below, and I will make sure to answer it as best as I can. If it is something veterinarian, unfortunately I'm not a vet, so if it's something to do with vet wise, you will have to contact your local vet. So I hope you have enjoyed, and I shall speak to you all again very shortly. Bye bye everyone.